The finger pointing at the moon is not the moon itself. Yet how many gaze at the finger and forget to look at the celestial light beyond? The speech of Ibn Arabi, beloved seeker of truth. When you witness the Qari reciting the divine word, you behold a magnificent paradox, a manifestation of the infinite through the vessel of the finite. The human voice carries the eternal speech, yet remains wholly human. This is the mystery that confounds those who see only with the eyes of form. The apparent and the hidden masses observe the Qari and become enchanted by his melodious voice, by the beauty of his recitation, by the artistry of his delivery. They say, "How beautiful is this Qari!" And in this, they commit no sin, yet they miss the deeper reality. For what you witness is not merely a man reading words, it is the divine attribute of speech manifesting through the mirror of human existence. The doctrine of unity understand, O seeker. The Qari is visible because he dwells in the realm of multiplicity, in the world of phenomena where forms take shape and names acquire meaning. But the Quran, the true Quran, originates from the station of divine unity, from that primordial realm where there is no separation between the speaker and the speech, between the knower and the known. When you hear the recitation, three realities converge in a single moment: the human instrument, the Qari, the divine transmission, the Quran. The eternal listener, your innermost consciousness. The veil and the unveiled. Most people remain veiled by the first reality. They hear the voice and believe they have heard the Quran, but the true Gnostic penetrates beyond the veil of appearances. He recognizes that the Qari is like a flute through which the divine breath passes. The music is not the flute's creation, though it cannot exist without the flute. This is what the Prophet meant when he said that the Quran will come on the day of judgment as an intercessor. Not the paper, not the ink, not even the reciter, but the living reality that these forms merely represent. The paradox of manifestation here, a profound secret. The Qari must be visible for the invisible to be heard. The temporal must exist for the eternal to manifest. This is the way of all creation. God reveals himself through veils. Yet those veils are precisely what prevent most from seeing him. When you truly understand this, you will listen to the recitation in a transformed state. You will honor the Qari for his service, appreciate his skill, and recognize his humanity. Yet your heart will pierce through this form to touch the divine reality beyond. The path of the awakened perfected human being listens with 3 ears. The outer ear hears the physical sound and appreciates its beauty. The inner ear comprehends the meanings and wisdom contained in the words. The secret ear perceives the divine self-disclosure occurring in that very moment. Most remain at the first station. The scholars and righteous advance to the second, but the saints and Gnostics reach the third, where they witness not the Qari reciting the Quran, but Allah speaking to his creation through infinite layers of manifestation. The final truth. Remember always, forms are real, but they are not the ultimate reality. The Qari exists, the Quran exists, but their true existence is in their source. When you see the wave, do not forget the ocean. When you hear the echo, remember the original sound. This is the station of Tawhid, divine unity, where all apparent multiplicity dissolves into the one reality. Yet multiplicity continues to serve as the theater of divine self-revelation. Closing wisdom. The Quran is recited by tongues, written in books, and memorized in hearts, yet it remains eternally with Allah, uncreated and unchanging. The Qari is your bridge to the divine speech, but do not worship the bridge when you seek to cross the river. The paradox of divine manifestation stands as one of the most profound mysteries in the spiritual understanding of existence. And nowhere is this more beautifully illustrated than in the phenomenon of Quranic recitation. When we witness a Qari giving voice to the sacred text, we are observing something far more complex and metaphysically significant than a simple act of reading. We are witnessing the infinite expressing itself through the finite, the eternal speaking through the temporal, the uncreated word flowing through created breath and vocal cords. This is not merely a poetic metaphor, but represents the fundamental architecture of how reality itself operates and reveals its nature to conscious beings. Consider the ontological layers at play in this single moment of recitation. The Qari is undeniably human, bound by all the limitations that define human existence. He experiences hunger and thirst, fatigue and mortality. His voice carries the unique characteristics of his physiology, his training, his cultural background, and his individual personality. These are not incidental features, but essential aspects of his humanity. Yet through this thoroughly human instrument, something wholly divine is transmitted. The words he speaks were not authored by any human mind, and according to Islamic theology, they existed before creation itself in the preserved tablet, in the divine knowledge, as an eternal attribute of God. This creates what Ibn Arabi would recognize as a hierophany, a breaking through of the sacred into the profane realm. The recitation becomes a liminal space where two orders of reality intersect and interpenetrate. The human voice does not cease to be human when it recites divine words, nor does the divine speech become less divine by passing through human vocal cords. Both realities maintain their integrity while simultaneously participating in a unified act. This is the mystery that those fixated solely on appearances fail to grasp. They hear the beautiful voice of the Qari and stop there, mistaking the medium for the message, the vessel for the content, the pointing finger for the moon itself. The deeper significance lies in understanding that this paradox is not unique to Quranic recitation, but represents the very mechanism through which the absolute relates to the contingent world. God, who is utterly transcendent and beyond all limitation, cannot be directly apprehended by limited, embodied consciousness. The gap between the infinite and the finite is absolute, yet God chooses to reveal himself, to communicate, to guide, and to be known. How is this possible? Only through manifestation within the realm of multiplicity, through self-disclosure in forms that finite minds can perceive and hearts can receive. The Qari therefore becomes a microcosm of creation itself, just as the entire universe serves as a theater for divine self-revelation, with every created thing bearing witness to its creator while remaining distinctly itself. So, too does the Qari serve as a conscious, willing participant in this cosmic drama. His participation is unique because it involves intention, devotion, and the sacred duty of accurate transmission. He must perfect his tajweed, train his voice, and discipline his heart, yet all of this human effort becomes the very means by which something beyond human effort manifests. This understanding transforms how we approach the experience of hearing Quranic recitation. The untrained listener hears only sound waves and perhaps feels an emotional response. The educated listener recognizes the linguistic beauty, the grammatical perfection, and the depth of meaning. But the Gnostic perceives the metaphysical event occurring in real time, the descent of divine speech into human hearing, the bridging of two realms, the momentary dissolution of the boundary between creator and creation, while that boundary simultaneously remains intact. What makes this paradox particularly potent is that it requires the Qari's humanity. The divine speech does not float disembodied through space. It needs the human throat, the human breath, the human presence to become audible in this world. This necessity elevates human beings to an extraordinary station as conscious intermediaries between heaven and earth. Yet this same necessity creates the danger of idolatry, of confusing the intermediary with the source, of becoming so enchanted by the beauty of the human voice that one forgets to listen for the divine speaker behind it. The journey of listening represents far more than a physiological process of sound waves striking the eardrum and being processed by the brain. In the metaphysical framework that Ibn Arabi articulates, listening becomes a spiritual ascent through progressively deeper modes of consciousness, each revealing layers of reality that remain hidden to those who have not developed the capacity to perceive them. This hierarchical understanding of perception acknowledges that while all human beings possess the same basic sensory equipment, the depth and quality of what they actually experience can vary dramatically based on their spiritual development and inner preparation. At the foundational level, the outer ear engages with the purely phenomenal aspects of recitation. This is the domain of aesthetic appreciation, where the listener responds to the melodic contours of the voice, the rhythmic patterns of the verses, and the sonic beauty of Arabic phonetics. There is nothing inherently wrong or inferior about this level of engagement. The Quran itself was revealed in a linguistic context that prized eloquence and appreciated the musicality of well-crafted speech. A beautiful recitation can move the heart, bring tears to the eyes, and create a sense of awe even in those who do not understand a single word of Arabic. This emotional and aesthetic response serves as an entry point, a gateway that can lead to deeper levels of engagement if the listener continues their journey inward. However, the danger of remaining at this first station is that it reduces the Quran to a form of spiritual entertainment or emotional therapy. The listener might collect recordings of their favorite reciters, attend gatherings primarily for the aesthetic experience, and rate performances based on vocal quality and stylistic delivery. They become connoisseurs of recitation as performance art, which, while not inherently sinful, falls far short of why the Quran was revealed. They hear the music but miss the message, appreciate the packaging while ignoring the contents, and remain perpetually at the surface of an ocean whose depths they never attempt to plumb. The second station of listening involves the inner ear, which represents the faculty of intellectual and spiritual comprehension. At this level, the listener moves beyond mere sound to engage with meaning, wisdom, and divine guidance embedded in the words themselves. This requires knowledge of Arabic or access to reliable translations and commentaries. It demands contemplation, reflection, and the willingness to let the text challenge and transform one's understanding. The scholar who studies the legal implications of a verse, the seeker who meditates on the stories of the prophets, and the believer who finds personal guidance in the ethical teachings all operate at this second station. This level represents a significant advancement because it recognizes that the Quran came as guidance for humanity, as a book of wisdom meant to be understood and implemented. The listener at this station no longer treats recitation as background ambience, but engages actively with the content. They ask questions, seek deeper understanding, and attempt to align their lives with the teachings they discover. They recognize that the beautiful voice of the Qari is delivering words of profound significance that demand intellectual engagement and practical application. Many devout Muslims spend their entire lives at this station, studying commentaries, learning jurisprudence, and striving to embody Quranic values in their daily conduct. Yet Ibn Arabi points to a third and even more rarefied station, accessible to the saints and Gnostics who have polished the mirror of their hearts until it can reflect divine light. The secret ear perceives beyond both form and meaning to witness the act of divine self-disclosure occurring in the present moment. At this level, the recitation becomes a theophany, a direct encounter with the divine presence. The listener experiences not just words about God but the immediate reality of God speaking, revealing, and manifesting. Time collapses into an eternal now where the original moment of revelation and the present moment of hearing become one. This third station does not negate or abandon the previous two, but rather integrates and transcends them. The Gnostic still appreciates the beauty of the recitation and still comprehends its meanings, but these become transparent to a deeper reality. They hear the Qari's voice while simultaneously perceiving the divine speaker. They understand the words while witnessing the infinite meanings cascading behind each phrase. They experience the multiplicity of sounds, meanings, and interpretations while remaining rooted in the unity of the one who speaks. Through all of them, the concept of the veil that simultaneously conceals and reveals stands at the very heart of Islamic mysticism and represents one of the most sophisticated understandings of how divine reality relates to human perception. This apparent contradiction, far from being a logical error or poetic exaggeration, describes with precision the existential predicament of human consciousness attempting to apprehend the absolute. The Qari embodies this paradox in a particularly vivid and accessible way, serving as a living demonstration of how the pathway to the divine is also, paradoxically, what can prevent us from reaching our destination if we mistake the path for the goal itself. From one perspective, the Qari is absolutely essential. Without human agency willing to learn, memorize, and vocalize the Quran, the divine text would remain silent on the page, accessible only to those who can read Arabic and have physical access to a copy. The Qari democratizes access to the sacred word, allowing the illiterate to hear it, the non-Arabic speaker to experience its sonic beauty, and communities to gather around the collective experience of listening. In this sense, the Qari functions as a mercy, as a bridge between the textual revelation and the living community of believers. His years of training in tajweed, his devotion to accurate pronunciation, and his spiritual preparation all serve the noble purpose of transmitting the Quran with fidelity and beauty. Yet this very necessity creates a subtle spiritual trap. The human mind naturally fixates on what it can perceive directly and concretely. The Qari is visible, present, and tangible. His voice has distinctive qualities that can be recognized and preferred. Some reciters become famous, attracting large followings and filling auditoriums. People develop favorites, expressing preferences based on vocal timbre, emotional intensity, or stylistic approach. Social media amplifies this tendency, with videos of particularly moving recitations going viral and reciters accumulating millions of followers. In all of this, there emerges the constant danger that the attention shifts from the Quran itself to the person reciting it, from the message to the messenger, from the divine speech to the human voice. This represents precisely what Ibn Arabi means by the veil. The Qari veils the divine speaker in the sense that our natural human tendency is to stop at the phenomenal level, at what we can see and hear directly. We become enchanted by the beauty of the human performance and forget to ask what lies beyond it. The veil is not deliberately deceptive. It is simply the necessary medium through which the formless takes form, through which the inaudible becomes audible. But our attachment to the medium, our tendency to reify and objectify it, transforms what should be transparent into something opaque. The metaphor of the bridge captures this dynamic perfectly. A bridge is essential infrastructure. Without it, the river cannot be crossed and the far shore remains inaccessible. To build a good bridge requires engineering skill, quality materials, and ongoing maintenance. All of this is valuable and necessary work. Yet imagine travelers who arrive at the bridge and, so impressed by its architecture and construction, decide to make camp on it. They study its design, photograph it from every angle, write treatises about its aesthetic qualities, but never actually cross to the other side. The bridge, which exists solely to facilitate passage, becomes instead an obstruction because of the traveler's failure to use it for its intended purpose. This is the spiritual condition of those who become so focused on the Qari that they never penetrate through to the reality the recitation is meant to convey. They collect recordings, attend recitation competitions, debate the merits of different styles, and cultivate refined aesthetic sensibilities around Quranic recitation, all while remaining fundamentally unchanged by the actual content and demands of the Quran itself. The bridge has become a destination rather than a means of passage, and in this transformation, its true function is lost even while it continues to be honored and celebrated. The solution is not to dispense with the bridge, which would be impossible since embodied human consciousness requires mediation to access transcendent reality. Nor is it to deny the value and beauty of the bridge, which would be ungrateful and contrary to recognizing the mercy inherent in divine self-disclosure. Rather, the solution lies in maintaining what might be called a double consciousness, fully appreciating the Qari and his service while simultaneously remembering that he points beyond himself to something infinitely greater. This requires spiritual maturity and constant vigilance against the mind's tendency to settle for the immediate and tangible rather than reaching for the ultimate and transcendent. The doctrine of divine unity, known in Islamic theology as Tawhid, represents far more than a simple numerical claim that God is one rather than many. In the hands of a mystic philosopher like Ibn Arabi, Tawhid becomes a comprehensive metaphysical vision that reframes our entire understanding of existence, multiplicity, and the relationship between the Creator and creation. When applied to the phenomenon of Quranic recitation, this doctrine reveals that what appears to be a fragmented reality composed of separate entities, the Qari, the words, the listeners, the book, the moment in time, is actually a unified manifestation of a single divine reality expressing itself through infinite modes and forms. The conventional understanding treats these elements as genuinely separate things that happen to come together in the act of recitation. There is a man who exists independently, a text that was revealed centuries ago and now exists as ink on paper, listeners who are discrete individuals with their own consciousness, and a temporal moment that will pass and be replaced by the next moment. This is the perspective of multiplicity, the view from within the realm of phenomena where things appear distinct, bounded, and separate from one another. This perspective is not false, but it represents only one level of truth, the most surface level where differentiation and distinction hold sway. The deeper vision of Tawhid recognizes that all of these apparently separate elements emerge from and remain continuously sustained by a single divine source,